Danger always smelt like his cologne. From the first glance, we knew we were going to burn. It wasn't about my husband, it was about his brother, the physical attraction I tried to deny for years. That day, he called me into the office, and in the elevator, the space became too small, the air too thin. There was nothing left but raw desire and that one request I knew he was going to make. What happened in those 5 minutes of silence, stuck between floors, was the pact that sealed the betrayal and condemned us to live a hidden passion. Get ready, because this forbidden romance happened under the same roof, and the final explosion will be inevitable. The scent of his cologne always signaled danger, a rich, dark fragrance that clung to the air of our family company. I was married to the calm, steady brother, but my heart and every nerve ending in my body belonged irrevocably to him, my husband's younger, wilder brother, my brother-in-law. It was a secret I had guarded with a fierce, suffocating intensity for 2 years, a silence that had begun to feel like a betrayal far heavier than the act itself. The irony was brutal. We shared holiday dinners, business meetings, and the last name, yet existed in two separate, aching realities. I can still picture that Tuesday perfectly. It was late, the massive corporate office was mostly empty, and a heavy, late autumn rain was drumming against the glass walls. My husband, Mark, was out of town on a business trip, a detail my brother-in-law, Lucas, was intimately aware of. He had sent a cryptic text 15 minutes earlier. Meet me on the 10th floor. Now, don't tell anyone. The moment I saw his name, my heart jumped into my throat, a familiar and terrifying sensation of being caught, even though I hadn't done anything yet. I knew better than to go, but the pull was too strong. I took the service elevator, preferring to risk the chance of a lonely night security guard seeing me over the certainty of the main lobby cameras. The air inside the car was cold, sterile, the perfect environment for a terrible decision. I kept repeating a mantra in my mind. Just talk, just be professional. A desperate, shallow lie I told myself every time he was near. The elevator doors slid open to the 10th floor, revealing a deserted space, save for one figure leaning against the marble wall, bathed in the eerie glow of the exit sign. He didn't move as I approached, just watched me with those piercing blue eyes that always seemed to know exactly what I was thinking, what I was fighting. "You came," he said, his voice low, like gravel being poured. There was no greeting, no pretense of business, just a raw statement of fact. My breath hitched, and I felt the carefully constructed wall of my composure begin to crack. I opened my mouth to ask what he wanted, to demand an explanation, but the words evaporated before I could form them. Before I could speak, he pushed off the wall and moved toward the elevator panel. His hand slammed down on a button marked with a small red bell, the emergency stop. The elevator lights flickered once, then dimmed, plunging us into a tense, charged twilight. My heart was pounding so hard I sure he could hear it. He turned back to me, the faint light catching the dangerous curve of his smile, his expression all business and devastating forbidden desire. "We have some things we need to discuss, and we won't be interrupted," he whispered, his eyes dark with intent. My knees felt weak and every instinct screamed for me to run, but I was trapped. I braced myself for the confrontation, the inevitable, passionate fight I knew was coming. But his next words were not what I expected at all. "You won't leave this floor until you hand over the." Before we dive deeper into the darkness of this forbidden affair, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You won't want to miss how the story of betrayal and undeniable passion unfolds. Every chapter holds a secret, and trust me, the final revelation will change everything. I stood frozen in the dim light, my entire body rigid with shock. My mind raced, trying to process the sudden, violent shift in the atmosphere. The question wasn't if he was going to betray his brother, but what form this betrayal would take right here, right now. I braced myself for a kiss, for a desperate plea of love, for anything but the actual words that followed his intense demand. He repeated the phrase, but this time he added a single, chilling word that finally clarified his intent. "You won't leave this floor until you hand over the flash drive," Lucas stated now, his voice low and utterly serious. The tension in the air immediately changed from forbidden desire to something cold and conspiratorial. My confusion must have been written all over my face. I shook my head, my panic subsiding slightly, replaced by a deep sense of dread. I didn't know anything about a flash drive. I truly didn't. "Lucas, I have no idea what you're talking about," I whispered, the sound feeling tiny in the confined space of the stalled elevator car. "What flash drive? If this is about the company, you know I only handle marketing. This is crazy. Let's just go." He took a quick step closer, closing the distance between us until I could feel the heat radiating off his body, which only intensified the impossible atmosphere. He wasn't intimidating me with his desire. He was intimidating me with his knowledge. He leaned in, his gaze dropping to my necklace, a subtle silver chain my husband had given me. "Don't play games with me, Amelia. Mark kept every file, every private company agreement, every piece of evidence of his secret investments on that small silver drive. He told you where it was before he left town. I know he did." My blood ran cold, solidifying the sickening feeling that this entire situation was much bigger than just the two of us and our scandalous secret. The fear was real now. This wasn't a romance. It was a high-stakes corporate power play involving my husband's private, potentially illegal dealings. My silence only confirmed his suspicion. Lucas's eyes narrowed, a clear shift from demanding lover to ruthless competitor. It was a terrifying look that showed me a side of him I hadn't been fully exposed to yet. He reached out slowly, his fingers just brushing my jawline, a move that was both possessive and threatening. "Now you have a choice to make, Anoya. You can give me the drive and we can forget this ever happened, or you can refuse and I will have to find another way to get what I need. But that choice will affect more than just your marriage." You're right to be concerned about Mark's secret investments. I wonder if Lucas knows about the other, darker secret he's keeping. Lucas's gaze burned into me, waiting for my reaction, his thumbs slowly stroking my cheek in a terrifying mix of intimacy and intimidation. I finally understood the truth. He didn't care about my feelings or my marriage. He only cared about the power the contents of that flash drive represented. I pulled back slightly, my voice shaking. "You really think Mark would entrust me with something illegal? You think I'm part of whatever this is?" He let out a short, humorless laugh. "Amelia, Mark doesn't trust anyone, not even his own wife, but he trusts you to be loyal. More importantly, he trusts you not to look inside the safe. Stop wasting our time. I know he has a wall safe in the study, and I know he gave you the combination." His absolute certainty was what finally broke me. Lucas always knew more than he let on, a skill he'd perfected while living in his older brother's shadow. A surge of protective anger flared up inside me. This wasn't just about Mark's shady business. This was Lucas using the leverage of our shared, unspoken passion to pressure me into a corporate crime. "And why are you doing this, Lucas? It's not just about money, is it? It's always been about Mark. You want to see him fall. You want what's his." The accusation hung heavy, pushing us past the superficial business talk and into the raw family rivalry that simmered beneath the surface of the company. His eyes flashed, a brief, sharp sign that I had struck a nerve. He didn't deny it. Instead, he simply leaned his tall frame closer, trapping me between his body and the cold metal door of the elevator door. Let's just say I'm reclaiming what was stolen from me a long time ago. Now, the combination, give it to me, or I swear I will find another way to make you talk. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was my moment to stand firm, to protect my husband, despite our fractured marriage. But as I looked at Lucas, standing there in the dim light, the desire that had haunted my dreams for 2 years suddenly twisted with the fear. I realized the terrifying truth. I was in love with my husband's enemy. I had to choose between my loyalty and my illicit obsession. The fear of what Lucas was capable of was less paralyzing than the fear of never seeing him again if I said no. I hated myself for it, but the passion was a stronger current than my moral compass. I sighed, defeated, the number tumbling from my lips, the combination to the safe. Happy now? I whispered, utterly defeated. Lucas had the numbers, but what I failed to realize was that revealing the safe's combination was only the beginning of his true plan. The moment the numbers left my mouth, a heavy silence settled between us, thick with the sense of betrayal. Lucas's triumphant expression was brief, quickly maxed by a cool, calculating look that made my stomach churn. I gave him the key to ruining his brother, the combination to a safe filled with corporate secrets, yet he made no move to release the emergency stop or leave the elevator. He simply stood there, assessing me with an intensity that felt deeply personal. Thank you, Amelia. That was easier than I thought it would be. His lack of reaction sent a fresh wave of panic through me. I realized he hadn't left because the drive wasn't his real goal. The corporate secrets were just leverage, a clever way to manipulate me into being alone with him and into revealing something far more valuable. So what now? You have the combination, I challenged, trying to hide the fear tightening my chest. Let's go. We shouldn't be here. I knew the lingering presence was dangerous, risking both our reputations and the stability of the entire family business. But Lucas only smiled slowly, the kind of smile that promised trouble and pulled me under despite my best intentions. The drive is just business, Amelia, he countered, his hand reaching out, this time not to threaten, but to gently trace the path of my husband's wedding ring on my finger. I didn't stop this elevator just for a corporate file, Amelia. I stopped it because I need to know something that only you can tell me. The sudden shift back to the intimate was jarring, a dizzying pivot that left me breathless. His gaze locked onto mine, burning away all the excuses and pretenses we had maintained for years. The air crackled with the forbidden desire we both fought so hard to conceal. I knew what question was coming, the one that had haunted every secret glance and whispered conversation. It was the question that truly had the power to destroy the family. He leaned in until his lips were barely an inch from my ear, and the warm scent of his breath mingled with the dark cologne that spelled danger. I need to know if you would have chosen me if I had been the one to propose first. I thought I had given him what he wanted, but Lucas had just raised the stakes from corporate crime to the biggest emotional gamble of my life. His question, if I had been the one to propose first, shattered the remaining defenses I had built around my heart. It was a raw, devastating truth delivered in the dim, confined space of a stalled elevator. I had spent 2 years answering that question silently, 1,000 times in the darkest hours of the night. But speaking the words aloud would cement the betrayal, making the simmering tension a very real and irreversible fact. The truth was a heavy, suffocating weight. When I met Lucas during the early days of dating Mark, he was just finishing college, younger, charismatic, and entirely unattainable, because he was Mark's brother. Mark, the older, stable choice, the heir to the company, had proposed first, offering security and a predictable future. My family had celebrated the sensible match, never knowing the storm that raged every time Lucas entered the room. "Why are you asking me this now, Lucas?" I managed, the question coming out as a desperate, shaky plea. My fingers dug into the cold metal railing beside me, anchoring myself against the emotional turbulence. It doesn't matter. I married Mark. That's the reality. I was clinging to the last shred of my loyalty, a fragile shield against the undeniable passion that was about to consume us both. He dismissed my protest with a dismissive wave of his hand. The reality is a lie we all agreed to live. But we are here, now, away from the lies, away from Mark's judging eyes. Tell me the truth, Amelia. Tell me what your heart wanted then and what it wants now. His demand was a cruel, beautiful invitation to break the last of my vows. I looked into his eyes and saw not just the reckless younger brother, but a reflection of my own intense, aching need. The shame was there, but it was momentarily drowned out by the sheer force of our mutual. Yes, Lucas, I would have. I would have chosen you. The words hung in the air, a final, irreversible truth that broke the seal on years of carefully maintained distance. The corporate intrigue and the flash drives suddenly felt trivial, just a flimsy excuse for this devastating, honest moment. The air was thick with the scent of his cologne and the dangerous energy of a secret finally revealed. He didn't move or speak right away. Instead, he simply looked at me, a profound mixture of triumph and vulnerability in his eyes. It was as if he'd been waiting for that one word to validate years of his own silent suffering. The tension that had been purely psychological for so long instantly became physical, a palpable heat radiating between us in the confined darkness of the elevator. My breathing was ragged, mirroring his own. He finally closed the small gap, and for the first time, there was no pretense, no business, just the reckless abandon of two people who had finally stopped fighting an inevitable force. His hand cupped my cheek, his thumb gently wiping away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. "I knew it," he murmured, his voice rough with emotion. "I knew Mark was the safe bet, but I always wondered if you felt the fire with him that you feel with me." The question was rhetorical. The truth was, Mark was a comfortable warmth, a steady pilot light. Lucas was a raging inferno, and standing so close to him now, I felt myself starting to burn. It was a terrifying realization of just how much I had sacrificed for the illusion of stability. All the polite smiles at family gatherings, the shared dinners, it all felt like a lie leading up to this exact terrible moment. He didn't need the safe combination anymore, and he certainly didn't need the flash drive. The prize he truly craved was the confirmation of my heart's infidelity. This was his true victory over his brother, knowing I desired him, the younger, wilder sibling, far more than the man I vowed my life to. He had won the emotional battle, and now he was going to collect. His eyes dropped from mine to my lips, and the anticipation was agony. I knew that the moment our lips met, our lives would be permanently altered, the family ties severed forever. I closed my eyes, accepting the inevitable fall into the darkness. I thought the kiss would be the climax of our sin, but it was just the beginning of a conspiracy far deeper than I could imagine. His lips finally met mine, and the world outside the stalled elevator, the company, my husband, the entire facade of my stable life, simply ceased to exist. It was a kiss that tasted of years of suppressed longing and the sweet, dizzying spice of absolute betrayal. It wasn't a tentative, first-time kiss. It was a desperate explosion, the immediate culmination of every secret glance and whispered fantasy we'd ever shared. When we finally broke apart, breathless and unsteady, the gravity of what we had done settled upon us, heavy and undeniable. Our passion was real, scorching, but it was also a reckless, dangerous flame in the middle of a corporate family empire. We looked at each other, not as simple lovers, but as co-conspirators who had just sealed a pact written in fire and deceit. We had chosen each other over everything else. "We can't undo this, Amelia," Lucas stated, his voice barely a whisper, his forehead resting against mine. He wasn't asking for my permission. He was stating a fact we both now understood. "You belong with me. You always have." His words didn't feel like a declaration of love, but more like a claim, a necessary adjustment to a reality that had been wrong for too long. I nodded, unable to speak, the shame and the thrill battling fiercely in my chest. I had crossed a line that night, one that involved more than just my marital vows. I had given Lucas the combination to the safe, confirming his suspicion that Mark was hiding something, and now I had confirmed my true emotional allegiance. This was no longer just a fling. It was an unspoken partnership bound by secrets. Lucas finally released the emergency stop and pressed the lobby button. The lights flickered back onto full power, harshly illuminating the guilt on my face and the cold determination on his. "The drive is the key to Mark's past, and now you have helped me get it. What happens next is up to us, Amelia. We have to be smarter than everyone else." As the elevator began its descent, I knew my life was about to become a tightrope walk over a chasm of familial and corporate destruction. I had chosen passion, but the true price of that choice, the full scope of Mark's secrets, was still locked inside that safe. I thought the secret was Mark's corporate dealings, but the pictures on the drive revealed a truth about my husband that chilled my soul and changed the entire game. The ride down to the lobby was agonizingly silent, a stark contrast to the explosive passion we'd just shared. Lucas exited first, giving me a curt nod that was all business, disappearing into the dark, rainy night. I waited a moment longer, trying to regain my composure, adjusting my clothes and smoothing my hair, before stepping back into the real world, the world where I was still Mark's loyal wife. I spent the next 2 days in a state of nervous tension. Mark was due back, and Lucas was unnervingly silent. He didn't text, he didn't call, and he avoided eye contact at the one brief company meeting we both attended. It was a suffocating silence that made the events in the elevator feel like a shared, dangerous dream. I knew he had used the safe combination. The question now was what he found and what he planned to do with it. Late Wednesday night, Mark finally arrived home, exhausted but cheerful. He immediately launched into stories from his trip, completely unaware of the cataclysm that had occurred in his absence. We went to bed, and as he slept soundly beside me, I realized the immense burden of my secret. I was not just guilty of emotional infidelity, I was now an accomplice in a corporate violation and a devastating personal betrayal. Lucas finally broke the silence the following morning. The text was simple and chilling. "He has the drive, and you wanted to meet me at the old boat dock tonight at 9. We need to talk about what's on it. It's worse than we thought." The familiar mix of dread and electrifying excitement returned, and I knew I had to go. The corporate secrets were no longer Lucas's problem alone. They were now intrinsically tied to my life. I arrived at the isolated dock after dark. Lucas was waiting by his car, the bay mist swirling around him. He didn't bother with greetings. He just opened his laptop, which was sitting on the hood, and showed me the screen. The files weren't just financial ledgers or investment reports. There were dozens of encrypted photos and documents with timestamps from years ago. Mark wasn't just hiding business dealings. He was hiding a whole other life. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Lucas wasn't just showing me betrayal. He was showing me a deep, fundamental lie that had formed the foundation of my entire marriage. The laptop screen glowed, illuminating the rage and shock on Lucas's face, and the cold, sick feeling spreading through me. The files weren't financial. They were a meticulously organized archive of photographs and private documents, all centered around a woman I had never seen before. She was beautiful, much younger than me, and utterly unfamiliar. "This is Catherine," Lucas stated, his voice tight with controlled fury. "She's been Mark's mistress for the last 5 years. He didn't just meet her. He set her up in an apartment across town, paid for her schooling, and even put a car in her name." He zoomed in on a picture, Mark, smiling genuinely, his arm around her at a scenic beach. The level of warmth and commitment in his expression was something I hadn't received in years. The betrayal was twofold. First, the passion I shared with Lucas, and second, the profound deceit of the man I had married. I hadn't just been betrayed by my husband, I had been replaced. The sickening realization was that Mark's secret investments were actually investments in a parallel life, a second, younger family he was nurturing right under my nose. I had been worried about corporate fraud, but the truth was far more destructive to my personal life. "He's been lying to you, Amelia," Lucas continued, his voice softening slightly as he saw the devastation in my eyes. "He didn't just leave you alone, he built a whole other reality to escape you. And the worst part? Look at this document." He clicked on a legal file, dated just 3 months before our wedding. It was a prenuptial agreement, but it had a strange, separate attachment. The attachment detailed a trust fund established for a child, managed by an attorney I didn't recognize. The child's name was redacted, but the date of birth was 5 years old, exactly the time Mark had started seeing Catherine. A wave of nausea washed over me. Mark hadn't just been having an affair, he had a child with his mistress, a child he had hidden from everyone, including his own family. My mind reeled. The entire structure of my life, my marriage, my financial security, my future, was built on a lie held together by Mark's meticulously kept secrets. Lucas looked at me, his eyes full of a strange mixture of pity and vindication. "He was planning to divorce you eventually, Amelia. This was his escape route. He's been living 2 lives, and you were just the stable cover." The pictures revealed Mark's betrayal, but the true danger lay in the secret power this child's existence gave to Lucas. The shock of the revelation that Mark had a hidden child with his mistress left me reeling. I wasn't just dealing with a cheating husband, I was dealing with a deep, deliberate deception that had been planned and executed over years. My pain was quickly morphing into a cold, focused anger. I looked at Lucas, who was watching my reaction intently, his expression unreadable in the dim, dark light. "This changes everything, Lucas," I whispered, the words heavy with the weight of shattered illusions. "He didn't just betray me, he made a mockery of the entire family. And this child? He used the company's resources to keep this second life secret." The truth was, Mark's betrayal was so profound that it suddenly diminished the magnitude of my own infidelity with his brother. Lucas nodded slowly, clicking the laptop closed. "Exactly, and that is our leverage. Mark built his entire public image on being the responsible son, the good husband, the future of the company. A scandal involving a secret child and corporate funds being diverted to a mistress will destroy him completely, professionally and personally. He wasn't just planning a revenge plot. He was planning a coup." His eyes, usually filled with reckless passion, were now sharp and calculating. He didn't use the moment to comfort me or return to our intimacy. He saw an opportunity, and he knew I was now a willing partner. "We are bound together now, Amelia. We both have something to gain and something to lose. The betrayal we started in the elevator, that was just practice. This is the real game." I felt a terrifying calm descend over me. The pain of the lies gave way to a chilling sense of purpose. I was no longer the victim. I was a co-conspirator with my forbidden lover. I had given him the safe combination, and now he had given me the weapon, the truth about Catherine and the child. I took a deep breath, the cold bay air filling my lungs. "What's the next step, Lucas? If we expose him now, the scandal will hurt the company and the family name. We need to be careful." I was thinking like a strategist, something my husband had never expected me to do. Lucas smiled, a dark, pleased expression, knowing he had finally found an equal partner in crime. Lucas had a plan to expose Mark without destroying the company, but the execution required a risk so great it would put our own secret affair in immediate jeopardy.